So hi everyone, this is Dami. I'm showing you a demo project using the Famous framework. Famous is a open source JavaScript framework that can create a fancy single page app, and it has very cool physical engine. So this project is based on a training session given by Shu uh, in the HTML5 conference last year, 2014. And here is his GitHub. He created lots of tutorials and presentations and demo projects based on Famous. So just check it out. In order to save some typing, I created lots of commits and so if we check out, so I just check out the first, so let's first take a look at the final version. So the final version is something like this. So it's a single page app. You can view a person's profile. You can pull his tweets, and you can also send message, but we leave this page empty. So we just want to show the idea. Okay, so there's a final version, and I just check out the original initial commit, and it's something like this. It's just the starting point. And if we see the code, it's nothing special. This is the Famous framework. We have the library with all the Famous source code, and we have the tweet data for us to render later. And in the main file, we just set the perspective to be 1000. So in Famous, the x-axis is from left to right, and the y is from top to bottom, and the z is from the inside the screen out. And we can play with this. Say we want a y logo, or we wanted to spinning a little bit faster. So yeah, so that's that. So now let's go to step 1. We check it out. So in step 1, we just add a blue header. So if we take a look at our code, it's we add a photo views, and the empty view is kind of the template given by Famous. It's the constructor, and the default options are used to pass parameters. The app view is the app we just created. We have the layout, and here we set the header and footer size, and we need to import the header footer layout from the Famous library. And later we will move these configs into a standalone config file. But that's for the step 1. So now we check out step 2. And if we refresh, we'll see we add 3 buttons. And if we see the code, we can see we added the button bar file, and inside there we create a layout with the dimensions 3 times 1. We have 3 buttons. This is column and a row number, and we create different colors, and we just sequence from, add this sequence to the layout. So that's our button, and we also have the content. The content is just the number 0, 0, 1, and 2. So now we check out step 2, gutter size. So now you can see we have some gutter size. This is to add some gutter, inside the layout. So if we see the effect, we can see now we have 6 buttons, and there are some margin space. That's the gutter size. And now we check out step 3, And if we see the effect, we'll see, okay, step 3, add some event handler to render different color. And if we see the code, we can see, okay, so now, yeah, so in the bottom bar, we add some click and we bind it to the this method. And this method will check whether the state is the current one. If it's the current one, we do nothing else. We emit some state change to the parent layer, and we record the current state. And in our parent view, we will see, okay, this is the listener. So if we receive the state change signal, we just do this function. This one just to use the lightbox. Lightbox is the effect, the zoom in, zoom out. The lightbox to show the corresponding content based on the index. And by default, we choose it to be 1, but we can choose it to be 0. So now if we refresh the page, it should be red. If we choose it to be 2, then if we refresh, it should be blue. So now we check out step 3, lightbox on header, just to play with the lightbox. So yeah, so as you can see, we can, instead of showing it in the content, we can show it in the header. So if we do this, then our effect will be on the header. So on step 4, so if we render it, we'll see, okay, on the page 1, we just load all the tweets. So if we see the change here, we import this effects easing transform, and we also created two more stuff. One is tweet data, which has the hard-coded tweets, and the feed view, which is the just one row of this data. And we have this effects, that's the light box. This one's using ease out, but I think Famous supports over 20 effects, so you can check it out. And here we just initialize a new feed view object using the tweet data. And here you can see we loop through the hard-coded tweet data. We add the index for that, and then we push all these new tweet view objects to the array, and we sequence render them. And here is the tweet view. So if you see it carefully, you can see the gray is like dark and light gray. So we do the logic here. The tweet view is actually one row of this, and it will do the CSS class to check if it's odd or even. We give it different color, and the content is just the options tweet content. Like I said, the options is this one, and it's just a way to pass the parameters. So if we see it here, the tweet data, we have all these fields, user, tweet, timestamp, and we also declare them here as undefined. So once we create the tweet view object with the tweets, these fields will be assigned correspondingly. So in the tweet view file, we set the size to be undefined and 100. It's the x and the y. Undefined means it just spreads all over the axis. So now we can say tweet is the entire row. So if we change it to be like 300, then we can see, okay, the tweet view object is just 300 by 100, which is one row. So this is the root moderator. We just concatenate the moderator, and this moderator will be will take effect on this tweet. So for step 5, if we refresh the page, we'll see, okay, now the buttons are, the buttons have icons on them, so it makes the button really beautiful. So if we see the change here, okay, so one thing to mention is, okay, we have, instead of the besides the button number 3, we replace it with a array of the buttons, and the buttons have different features, like the label is the name, and the icon URL is the SVG file saved in the project. And we're still binding this click to each button, and this is to show, okay, if you want to emit a event, you can pass the multiple parameters as an object. So the second parameter 2 is just a dummy parameter with the string 2. The index field is just the index, so this is a way to show you like how you pass an object with multiple parameters. And the event output and also the event input is kind of a export and import place where different views can communicate. And the buttons for this origin and align, this is the way Famous is doing the relative alignment or positioning between parent and a child. So if you check the so here's a good example. So if you, the align point is for the parent, and the original point is the point on the child. So if you make the original to be 0505 with 0505, which is the midpoint, 055 means 50% of x and also 50% of y. So that's the midpoint of the square, the center of the square. And then you set your origin point, and then if you set both, the way Famous layout is like using this, it will align the origin to the align point. And here is what we do. So we align the center point of our icon to the center point of the button. So that's why we see it here. And one more thing to point out is how Famous handles the event relay. For example, so once we if you notice, we add a button view besides button bar. So the chain would be like this. So if a click is there, then the click will be listened by button view, and the button view will pass it on to button bar, and the button bar will pass it to app view. So we'll see how it works. So the button view will listen to the click event, and it will emit the button click. Like I said, the event output is the export place to emit a event, and the button view's parent is button bar. So the button bar will the button bar will be listening to this button click, and then it will call this state bind. In the state bind, the select state, it will bind to the select state method. The select state is here. It will decide which button it clicked, and then as a relay, it will emit another event called state change to its parent layer, which is the app view. And in the app view, if we receive the state change, we check which button is clicked, then we render the corresponding content in this sentence in the lightbox effect. So now if we check out step 6, the step 6 will add the title to each page. So if you click different buttons, you can see, okay, the title will also have the lightbox effect. So what it does is so this is for the button icon. So what it does is at this step we move all the config to the app config. So if we see the file app config, we'll say, okay, we have all these title and also their icon URL. Yeah, so we move all this stuff here. And if you see here, if we hear a state change event, then instead of triggering only one light box on the content, we trigger two. We have the content and header. That's why we saw, you know, these title will also have the same effect. So now we check step 6 of the spring effect. So now if we refresh the page and if you click this button, you can see it has some effect. You see? Yeah. So all these are done by the cool famous physical engine. So if you see the change here, we set up the so once we click it, we trigger this effect. We first set the scale to be 0.7 and then we set it back to be 1, but the effect will be spring, and there are different kinds of parameters like how long it takes and the dapper ratio. The dapper is like, if it's 1 it's just still, if it's 0, which means it has zero dappering, then it will keep springing forever. So so besides the spring, we also want the button to be of different color or opacity if we click on it, just to show the the user which button you have clicked. So let's check out step 6, set opacity. So if you see here, we do the logic in the button bar JS. Okay, let's go to button bar JS. So here we do the logic as before, but if it's a new button clicked, then we trigger the toggle method, and the toggle method is here. It's just setting some, like I said, it's just setting the opacity. So if the button was not clicked before, but it's clicked now, then we set the opacity to be 1. Otherwise, we just flip it. So in this case, now we are the default one is just 1, so profile is clicked. If we click home, then the profile one will be flipped, which will be false. Then it will become opacity 0.5, and the home will flip to be true, so it will become, full opacity. So it's an emphasis on the button, on which button you just click. So in our last step, step 8, we add the profile page and also the turnover effect. So if we refresh here, now we have the Shu's fancy profile, and we also add the flip over effect so that it looks like we are turning pages of a book. So let's see what are these. So first we move all these header content settings for the lightbox. These are all the parameters for the physical effects. We move all these settings to our app config file. This is a config file. This just to make the code more more organized. Sorry. And yeah, so we add these flipping effect, and we use this effect to initialize the lightbox. So now the lightbox has the turning page effect, and our first page is a tweet, and our second page is a profile view. So if we see the code here, we have the profile view JS .js, and it's quite similar to our previous views. But then here you have your transform. So this is the way we operate operate the different layouts. Like this one is the profile picture, and this is the position where we place the picture. So this 25 from the, like I said, there's a y-axis, and a y is from top to bottom. So this is like 25 pixels from the top, which is here. So if we change this one to be 250, then the picture will move down. Same thing happen if we do this, So this is Shu's name and his website. We'll just change it back. Okay, change this back here, and that's it for the demo project Shu just created. Oh, we didn't move. Yeah, so we just move that. So I think the best practice is to just go over the project step by step, and just type it to get familiar with the famous framework. And also, like I mentioned, Shu create lots of useful stuff on his GitHub. And Famous also has a university introducing all the basic ideas, and then at last it has a slideshow project which takes like an hour, and it's pretty fancy. It's quite similar to the one we just created for the single app, the Twitter one, but it looks like this, and you can see the physical effect, like it will swing back and forth, and in the tutorial it will teach you like how to set these parameters and how to tune this and how to listen to the effect. And it's pretty cool because you cannot keep clicking. It has some mutual exclusive mechanism to prevent you from clicking. And yeah, so this is the so I think that wraps up. And also on Famous website, you can see lots of demos. Like this is another single page app for the phone. And yeah, I think that's that.